There is no medical team member in grid cell. We are Excel Analytics and can share only way we are reading numbers. Please, for more instructions and detailed medical analytics on COVID-19 spread in your country, refer to government authorities. And please stay safe and secured. When we talk about if function, we need also to cover some functions that are built with tight integration of if logic. I mean SUMIF, AVERAGEIF, COUNTIF, and logic version of MAX and min function. But why you need to watch this video? Because we will cover not only if functions, but also ifs functions, and we are going to use them to analyze world data for COVID-19 from 2nd of April 2020. Let's start. I would like to give you a short overview of all functions that are built with logical conditions embedded, and for the first 5 we are going to have a more detailed review. So we are starting with the first 3. First 3 functions may be built both with if and ifs functionality. That means that you may apply calculation with one simple condition for if. For the first 5, you can use ifs conditions, so you can see it right over here. That means that you can use various combination of conditional operations to create complex logical statement. Please note that max and min has only ifs function and available since version of 2019. We have created a user-defined function and I will create a video to share it with you and explain the logic. So subscribe now not to miss it. For if function, it's pretty obvious that we can use both options as it's originally the function that we are using here. As for the last 2, they are representing check logic and may be substituted with complex if statement. I have you example here that you can check out. So it just checks that the data that you are providing is accurate, so there is no any errors. If it is some error in the file or in calculation that you are providing to this function, then it automatically applies a second parameter. So let's start with count. So all tasks are going to be processed through the similar tables. To the left, we are having a task that we need to complete, and I'm going to explain you the logic why we are going to do that. Also, we are having some baskets. This is something that we are going to use for ifs conditions. And to the right, we are having actually calculation fields. So in gray, we are going to have the fields that we would like to complete. So for COUNTIF, we are going to evaluate how the spread of COVID-19 is evolving on the global scale. To do that, we are going to create a COUNTIF function, and we are going to evaluate based on the months of the first case. To do that, we need to provide 2 parameters. One is for range and one is for criteria that will be used to compare each value in this range. So I'm going to go to COVID data, select the first case months. I'm going to make it fixed because all the formulas that we are going to create here are going to be scalable. And as a condition, I'm going to make equal to the months of the first case. So this is what we have for the first month, or for January. In February, we were having 42 cases, and in March, we were having 134. Overall, it already takes us 203 countries evolved. And for us, that means that we are almost on the limit of the countries that we are having on a global scale. So probably in April, we are not going to have much increase here, and I really hope we are going to stop at this amount. For the countifs, we are going to evaluate the evolution through the 2 baskets. One is for population and one is for days since the first case. So we are going to create a formula that will consider 4 conditions, and all conditions are going to be separated into 2 parts. One is for population and one is for days. And we are going to take both conditions through the bottom limit and top limit. So let's start. I'm going to create countifs. Here we need to provide the range and criteria, and there is going to be multiple ranges that we will need to provide here. So I suggest that we're going to start with the population. So we're going to start here and selecting the whole column for population. Now we are going to jump back to the count tab. We are going to create that we are looking for everything that's more than bottom limit, and with the ampersand we are going to select the bottom limit of the range. And to make it scalable, I need to fix it by column. The next part, we can easily copy that and paste, because we are also going to search for data in population, but now we will need to change the conditions. So we need to check out for everything that's less or equal, and instead of the bottom limit, we are going to take the top limit and again make it fixed on the column. So I'm going to close it and I'm going to check at least from the population perspective. So now let's add one more condition for us for days since the first time, and this is going to be done in a similar manner. So we are going to jump to the column for the days since the first case, and I'm going to make it fixed. Next, I'm going to create more than conditions, adding ampersand, and I'm now selecting the bottom level for days. Again, making it fixed, but this time I'm going to fix the row. So it's going to be $sign before the 5. And again, I would like to copy paste it because the logic is going to be just the same here. And as a result, I would like to substitute the conditions. So I'm going to check out for everything less or equal and top limit. Again, fixing the row. Hitting enter. And in the first cell, we already have the results. So let's complete it. To do that, I'm selecting the whole range and again coming to the formula and hitting Ctrl Enter to complete it. So what you can see here, that the spread is rather limited. We are having most of the cases that are coming within the recent months, as you can see it on the previous table. And the majority of the countries that we are having, there is less than 1 million population. And this is the evolution that we are observing here. Again, I really hope that within the next few weeks we are not going to see any changes on this table overall, except for the baskets that are going to be evolving. So this is part for the COUNTIF and countifs function. So now we are turning to the SUMIF and SUMIFS function. Here we are going to evaluate amounts of critical cases. And for SUMIF, the task is going to be to separate them per countries per month of the first case. And for SUMIF, we are going to evaluate how many critical cases are still pending per 1 million of population. So we're going to start with SUMIF, and I'm going to start here creating the function. So I'm going to create a SUMIF, and here you can see that there is a difference with the count. So it accepts 3 parameters. First one is going to be the range, where we are going to check out for criteria. Second one is criteria itself, and the last one is sum range. It's available here in square brackets, and that means that if we are not going to provide this parameter, it's going to calculate the values available in the range column. So we are going to start creating it, and again we will need to check out first range per month of the cases. We are going to jump back and provide the second parameter as a month of the first case, and now we would like to calculate serious critical cases. So again, selecting it and fixing. What you can see here overall, that situation is pretty predictable, that the earlier the country has faced COVID-19, we are having much more cases that are serious and critical ones. Take into consideration that the most of the cases are coming from the big countries, so the population is much bigger there and much more resources are required to manage it. So for SUMIFS function, we are going to calculate it per baskets per population, and we are going to use the same conditions that we were using. So I'm going to create a similar function, and here the point that I would like to emphasize before creating anything, that the first parameter for this function is actually the sum range. So you need to provide data that you are going to calculate. In our case, it's going to be summarizing, and only after that you are starting with the same sequence of conditions and ranges that we were using in COUNTIFs function. So to do that, I would like to select first serious cases and make it fixed. As for conditions, I'm going to use the same logic as we were using for COUNTIF, so I will speed up this one to show you already the final results. So we have created our function. One of the most important parts here also that you need to consider that we have not covered in COUNTIF function, that if you're using the same amount of cells in the range you would like to calculate, you need to pass the range of conditions on the same size. Otherwise, the formula will work incorrectly, so this is something that you always need to check. And here you can see that I'm starting in row number 3 and finishing at row number 205, and same for the conditions. So hitting enter, and we are having the first results for countries that having less than 1 million populations, and again I'm going to autofill all the data. So here you can see the results per 1 million of population available here. What we can see that rather interesting example that we are having a lot of countries from 20 millions until 40 millions of population, and the overall results of critical cases per 1 million is less than 1. And it's pretty same as we are having for the big countries like USA and China and India. However, biggest items we are having here for the population for more than 40 millions and less than 120. Here we are having Spain and Italy that is significantly now impacted by the COVID-19 infection, and this is why we are having the biggest increase here. Also, we can see that the smaller the country, we are also having the bigger amount per 1 million of people, and that means that just an impact of the volumes that we are having less population to be calculated by, and that is mainly causing us to have results bigger than majority of the cases here. So for average, we are going to calculate already total cases, average amount per country, and we are going to calculate for AVERAGEIF total cases per first case months. And for ifs function, we are going to calculate it again through the basket that we are having as a conditions preset. So let's start. First, we are creating AVERAGEIF function, and it is accepting also 3 parameters, same as sum. So first parameter is range, that we are going to search for some criteria that we are going to provide in a second parameter. While the third parameter again is in square brackets. That means that if we are not going to provide any values for that, the formula will calculate average results based on the range that we have provided for criteria. So in our case, we are going to check out for first months, again fixing, moving on to average and linking to the months when the first case was identified, and now we are going to check out for total amount of cases, and again making it fixed. So the expectations are pretty obvious, that we are expecting that the earlier the country has faced the COVID infection, the more cases on average we are having here. And also one of the issues that we need to consider here for January, that most of the biggest countries has faced COVID infection much earlier, far in January. Therefore, they are having much more cases nowadays, and that's impacting the split here. But also, it is not widely spread in countries that has faced COVID only in March. Therefore, probably it's going to increase from some time now. However, we are expecting that it's not gonna overcome the results we have for January months. So for AVERAGEIFs, we are going to create a pretty same formula that we were using for SUMIFS, and we are going to calculate only total cases. For the function itself is accepting the same sequence of parameters, so we are going to provide the first range that is going to be used for calculations, and the next ranges and criteria for us to sort them out. Therefore, I'm going to speed this part one more time for us to make it a little bit more efficient for you. So we have created our function here, and now let's complete it overally. Pretty obvious that we are having the trend that the bigger the country and the earlier the COVID infection has been identified, the more cases we are having here. So the biggest part we are having for countries that have more than 40 million of people and have faced COVID infection more than 60 days ago. Therefore, we are having them in much more red coloring here, while countries that we are having for less than 2 weeks from now, they are having still in green zone, and overall you can see that trend is fully aligned with the development of the baskets by population here. So this is how the average function can help you here from different perspectives and using the conditions to find it out. Let's check out the last part. So as you remember from the overview, we are having max and min available with only ifs function. And if you are using Excel earlier version than 2019, that you probably don't have this function available on your version. Therefore, we have developed a user-defined function, and we are going to share it through the separate videos. So don't forget to subscribe now to not miss that. And we are going to search for two items here. For maximum, we are looking forward to see how many recovered cases we have per each of the baskets. And we are going to search for the maximum amount here. And in terms of the minimum function, we are searching for minimum active cases to see how critical the situation is evolving through the months and through the population levels. So we're starting with max, and we are going to create MAXIF. So again, the function follows the logic of the average and sum. We need to provide first range where we are going to search for the values, and only then we will create the conditions that are going to be the same as in baskets. So for max, we are searching for recovery cases, and we are taking it from column D here. It's already fixed, and the rest we are going just to repeat the same sequence we were using in previous two functions. So I'm going to speed this up. So the function is available here, and we are going to check it through. So first, you have noticed that we are having some errors. That mean that formula hasn't found any values available here, and take into consideration the situation rather critical. We are not having recovered for some countries. That means that still situation is getting overall not that good. However, what we can see here also that the higher the population and the earlier we are having the COVID spread on the country, we have much more cases of recovery. So this is again the case that's connected to the total amount of cases we are having per each of the countries. What's also important here to understand that we are having lots of cases coming from February that been identified and countries have faced, but they are already a good trend to recover. Even for the countries where we are having less than million, it's rather big amounts. So turning to minimum if function, we are going to copy the function that we were using for maximum if, and we are going to do the following with the copy paste. I'm going just to copy the function. In fact, it already accepts the limits that we are looking here for. I'm going to change formula from maximum to minimum and click enter. And also I'm searching here not actually the cases of recovery, but the active cases. So I'm going to substitute the first parameter with active cases, and again making sure that it's fixed, so hitting enter. Overall, I'm going to recomplete it again. What we can see here that still there is a lot of active cases available for the country that has faced COVID infection before March, and we are still observing that a lot of cases are available for big countries. We're in a first wave that has faced COVID infection in January. Some not pleasant trends that we can see that for the countries from 5 million until 10 million, we have lots of cases. But again, we are talking about the countries that has faced COVID infection before February, and that means that their still situation is rather critical. For the countries that has faced COVID infection only within March, we have a rather small amounts. Again, I understand that this is only minimum amounts, but overall that means that there is no any criticality. For the countries where we are having more than 20 millions and less than 40 millions population, we are having already several cases. But again, if you are going to check out the recovery tab that we have here, there is lots of people who has recovered from the COVID infection. So I really hope that all these active cases are going to be resolved within the most recent time, and we are going to see already a stable and solid and secure environment for the people all over the world. Thank you for watching. I wish you and your close ones to stay in safe and secure environment. Cheers!